Hi everyone, welcome to the Cobwebs YouTube channel. This is Cobwebs, where we are dusting off classic cinema to see what it has to offer today. My name is Daniel Epler, and I am the host of the channel, and you might know me from the Cobwebs, a Gothic Cinema podcast, and I was not expecting to get into the YouTube scene. This is not something I've really been seriously thinking about. It's a little bit spur of the moment, and just to make this quick, I've just been noticing more and more discussion lately about how much we talk about old movies and how much we talk about classic film, especially if, you're on the film Twitter. And sometimes I see people say things like, oh, we need to do better. We need to talk about older movies. And this director who, her name's Anna Biller, she directed The Love Witch, which is a recent movie I enjoy. She tweeted just today that, sometimes it seems like people think film started in the 1960s or something. And I just see this come up more and more. And whenever I see this, I think I spend so much time watching old movies from like the 1930s through the 60s, sometimes going back to the 1920s. I should be talking about this more. So I'm going to do this right now as a YouTube channel because I can do it completely on my own time. Don't have to get guests or anything like that. And it can just be a quick, short form way to recommend old movies and maybe help people get into old movies. Like I'm thinking maybe sometimes we'll do videos on like how to get into this kind of like maybe classic Westerns or classic musicals or things like that. We'll do haul videos. That's basically what we're doing right now. I do like haul videos and, topic videos, whatever. We'll see how this thing goes. And just for the first video, I'm going to talk about a stack of old movies on the Criterion Collection. Now, we're not going to spend a ton of time talking about the Criterion Collection on this channel because they're very expensive and they keep me away a little bit because of that, because I'm a bit of an economic collector and I love collecting Kino Lorber and Warner Archive, and we'll be talking about them a lot on this channel for sure because, lower prices, easier accessibility to like check out movies and figure stuff out. But the thing with the Criterion Collection right now is I got a phenomenal deal on these recently at a used, not a pawn shop, but it's basically called a vintage stock. You may have them. They sell used movies. And I ended up getting a great deal on these because they had a bunch used and they were selling them for buy two, get one free. So I got some cool Criterion movies and I'm just going to go through the stack with you. Some of these I've seen, some of them I haven't. Maybe you can tell me what you think about them. So it's going to be a real relaxed video. I think we're probably going to have a lot more better prepared stuff in the future, but let's see how this goes. First up, it is the Asphalt Jungle. So the Asphalt Jungle is a noir film from 1950 directed by John Huston. John Huston is a guy I want to get into a lot more. He directed The Maltese Falcon, which is a movie I really enjoy. Not a movie I love quite as much as a lot of people, but I do really enjoy that film. He directed Treasure of the Sierra Madre and High Sierra, like a lot of Bogart movies and stuff like that. But he made The Asphalt Jungle. This is actually a very early Marilyn Monroe movie, which is cool, but she's not in it all that much. Essentially, this is a heist movie about a group of criminals who pull off a brilliant heist, and crime doesn't pay. And just, it's an old school noir in that life is really hard and it's going to screw you over. The thing that really struck me about this movie, because I did watch this just recently, is how the portrayal of the cops is like they're this indestructible, unstoppable force that will destroy you no matter what. And the criminals are so humanized that you really get to care about them. I actually thought this would be a cool double feature with Cobra. I don't have the Scream Factory edition, but I do have it on this Stallone collection, and that's the classic Cobra art. Cobra is a cool Stallone canon movie from the 1980s, but that's a movie about basically glorifying the cops as fascists, and I thought if you watch that after this, where you get kind of scared of the cops because you care about the criminals so much, Cobra would be an even scarier movie than it is anyway. But Asphalt Jungle is a really, really cool movie. It is starring Sterling Hayden, and I'm not super familiar with him, but I loved him in this movie. He just seems like he got run over by a truck before every single scene. He is this beaten down, gruff man's man in kind of the best way. There's actually a whole little documentary about him on this that I haven't got the chance to check out yet. So I'm very happy that I picked up Asphalt Jungle. It seems like cool stuff. Well, the movie is cool stuff, but the features seem like cool stuff too. Next up is another movie I have seen. It is Swing Time. Now, I've had the DVD of this movie for many, many years, but I finally upgraded the Blu-ray because it was finally the right price. This is a Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers musical. I love the Fred and Ginger musicals. They're so much fun. If you haven't gotten into them yet, haven't really watched many of them, they are essentially 1930s screwball comedies. But it just so happens that people also break into song from time to time. And there are beautiful dance numbers because If you know much about musicals, you probably consider Fred Astaire the greatest dancer of all time. Maybe you would say Gene Kelly, maybe, but I think Fred Astaire is the more popular answer. So him and Ginger Rogers was such a phenomenal pair. I love their movies together. I'm such a huge fan. And I think this one is my favorite. One thing about it that I like better than Top Hat, in Top Hat, which is a very similar movie with a very similar cast, Fred Astaire is instantly so in love with Ginger Rogers, and there are a lot of misunderstandings that keep her from being in love with him back, and he pursues her so hard that it even makes me a little bit uncomfortable right now. You know, as my buddy Chris Hurtado from the Hurtastic Reviews channel might say, it's a little sus. And Swing Time is less sus. It's more just, there's less misunderstandings and lying to each other. It's a little more of a chill relationship between two people who really like each other. It's a really fun movie. If you like, say, the music from Frank Sinatra, or even more recently, maybe like Michael Bublé or something like that, you'll be surprised how many of those old Great American Standard jazz songs come from these Fred and Ginger musicals. Like The Way You Look Tonight is in this, which is a very famous Frank Sinatra song, and Fred Astaire sings it in this movie. The only thing I want to warn people, I guess it is a little bit of a trigger warning if I'm being honest, is there is a blackface number in this. It doesn't strike me immediately as being near as horrible as in, say, Holiday Inn, which is another Fred Astaire movie. It's a little more respectful than that, but there's still absolutely no excuse for it. And there's actually an entire featurette on here about that number that probably gives some good historical context and things like that. So I'm glad that they included that. That's like the only scene that keeps this from being a 5 out of 5 movie for me. So other than that scene, phenomenal flick. Next up, 1930 screwball comedy, My Man Godfrey. This is starring William Powell, who I think is my favorite screwball comedy star. You know, I love Cary Grant with all my heart. I don't, buy a ton of Criterions for full price, but if they put out a Cary Grant movie, I usually pick it up. I love his screwball comedies, but William Powell might even be my boy above that. You might know him from the Thin Man movies. You might know him from Libeled Lady, which Warner Archive just put out, which is an even better movie than this. But this is a really, really fun screwball comedy from 1936. One thing I've noticed watching screwball comedies and romantic comedies and hell, just comedies from the 1930s is there's so much about rich versus poor people and rich people clashing, because the Depression was on everybody's mind during this time. And this is another one. William Powell is a bum, and this very rich family brings him in because one of the daughters, who's an adult daughter, she is just instantly fascinated with him, and she wants to like kind of take care of him and make him her project. And he ends up becoming their butler and ends up being very, very good at it and kind of a valued member of the family. Has a really cool twist ending too. I love the way this movie ends. It is, it's sweet, it's romantic, it's genuinely funny. William Powell is awesome. And it's just really, really good. Who directed this movie? Gregory LaCava. I'm not super familiar with him. He's not like a Hawks or a George Cukor or something like that, but killed it with that movie. All right, so next up is believe it or not, a Vincent Price movie, though it may not look like it from the cover, Leave Her to Heaven. I'm a little bit at war with myself about whether this is a melodrama or a noir. I think ultimately it's both, and you can pick whether you want to consider it either. But it's from 1945, which is a little bit early for noir, but there were noirs certainly back then. No, I think Noir was a little more popular in the 1950s, but Double Indemnity was 44. Anyway, this movie is in beautiful Technicolor. It's probably one of the prettiest movies you will ever see in your life. It has got such an incredible cast, like Gene Tierney, who you might know from Laura, which is actually another Vincent Price noir movie, because Vincent Price does have a supporting part in this. I don't think he ever starred in a noir, but before he was a huge horror star, he did support in quite a few of them. Colonel, I always struggle how to say his name. Colonel Wilde? I think it's Colonel Wilde. He is the male lead in this, and he is the lead in a lot of noir films. Another one that I like with him is Shockproof, which is actually a Douglas Sirk noir movie. And funny enough, because that's Sirk, that movie is less of a melodrama than this one is. But this is a really, really intense, cool movie with an iconic femme fatale put right here on the cover. And it's intense. It's sad. It's beautiful. I mean, I wish movies looked this good. I really do. I like that movie a lot. It's funny. I said I've only not seen one movie on this stack, so I thought maybe I was going to talk about some movies that I haven't seen, but I've been kind of going through these a bit quickly. Next up is Kiss Me Deadly, which is a full-on noir from 1955. And this is definitely kind of a cult film. It was actually included in Danny Perry's first cult movies book. And my buddy Anthony King on the Cult Movies podcast, he just covered this with Rosalie Lewis. And that's a really, really great podcast. They're certainly going to provide a lot more insight than I will. But this is a cool movie, one that I didn't totally get. I mean, I've watched it once. I need to see it again. But what's so crazy about it is it has a twist ending that is absolutely shocking and sort of takes you out of the normal reality of a noir. I mean, noir are about crime and murder and sex, and they're about real things. They don't often take you to another place, to another sort of level of reality. And this movie kind of does, and it made me wish more noir movies would do that. It's a very low budget indie movie. Doesn't quite look it, I don't feel. I think it looks really, really good. I am a fan of Kiss Me Deadly. I thought it was very interesting, very unique. Look at that cover. It's a little scary, you know. This guy, this lead actor, what is his name? Ralph Meeker. He's kind of scary in this movie. I mean, he's the protagonist, but if you throw in like a more virtuous character in here, he would be the antagonist, but there's not a more virtuous character in this movie, not really. You know, a lot of noir are about bad guys versus badder guys, and that's what this movie is. Anyway, I did enjoy this movie. I need to see it again, though, to like fully grasp it, because it's pretty out there. You know, it's not your normal noir. Okay, we've got two more. It is The Gunfighter. This is a Western I've been wanting to see for quite some time, and I haven't seen it yet. This is the one that I haven't seen from this stack. But I'm a big fan of Gregory Peck. I think he's a guy that, you know, maybe isn't as obviously awesome as, say, Jimmy Stewart or Errol Flynn, guys that draw you in immediately. Gregory Peck, you know, he is more reserved. Let's use the word reserved, but I still find him charming. You know, I love him in Roman Holiday. Huge fan. That might be my favorite Gregory Peck movie. It might be Roman Holiday, great romantic comedy. But this is a Western that I don't know too much about. It is from 1950. It is directed by Henry King, and I am so excited to check it out. It is a brooding Western that would cast a shadow over Americans' frontier folklore. This subversive psychological saga sounds a death knell for the myth of the outlaw hero. In one of the most morally complex roles, Gregory Peck stars as Jimmy Ringo, an infamous gunslinger who looks to hang up his holsters and start a new life. But his reputation draws him into a cycle of violence and revenge from which he cannot escape. Oh gosh, that's all I need to know. It sounds intense. It sounds brooding. I'm psyched for that movie. Lastly, this is a movie that I have definitely seen, and I actually wrote a piece about it on the website, cobwebspodcast.com. So you can check out some in-depth thoughts what I have to say about this movie. It is Sullivans Travels, directed by Preston Sturges from 1941. I think I'm right on that. Yes, I am. 1941. It's starring Joe McCrea and Veronica Lake. Joe McCrea, you might know from Westerns. He did do a lot of Westerns back in the day, but he did do some romantic comedies, especially with this director, Preston Sturges. Veronica Lake, very much homaged in LA Confidential by Kim Basinger, so that might be a frame of reference for her. But as far as past Criterion movies, she also starred in I Married a Witch. And she's never going to be known as one of the best actresses of old Hollywood, and nor should she be, but she's so charming and just like so cute, and she's such a pleasant presence. And I know if she's in a movie, like, I'm going to enjoy that because she's just fun, you know, like obviously she's pretty, but you know, all the starlets of this time were pretty. She's maybe a little bit more striking because of her incredibly blonde hair, but she just seems like fun. She seems like a fun person to hang out with, and she does in this movie. This is another comedy about poverty. It is about Joel McCrea stars as John Sullivan, who is a film director who only makes comedies against his will, pretty much, because the studio wants him to. And he wants to make an important movie about poverty, sort of his grapes of wrath, if you might say. And they point out that he's been rich his whole life, and he doesn't know anything about poverty anyway. And they think that telling him that will make him give up this dream. But it does not. Instead, he decides to pretend to be poor and go out and try to live like a hobo. And Veronica Lake ends up coming along with him. It is so much fun. I think it has a lot to say about the importance of the comedy genre, which I think the comedy genre is a little bit overlooked, a little bit disrespected, and I love the comedy genre, particularly when you're looking back at like the 1930s and 40s. That might be my sweet spot for the genre. And this has, you know, stuff to say about how important it is. I'm a big Preston Sturges fan. A little bit recently, I was a huge fan of The Lady Eve, which I picked up on Criterion last year. But this year, you know, I watched this movie, and they just recently added a Criterion collection of Preston Sturges movies on the Criterion Channel. And I've been going through those pretty quickly because they're wild, they're crazy, and they're a lot of fun. And they all have William Demarest, which is a lot of fun. You see the same goofy old men pop up in every Preston Sturges movie. But anyway, that is a group of old movies on Criterion. And other than the Gunfighter, which I haven't seen yet, but it's probably awesome, I recommend them all. This is just turning out so good. Next week, we might have a Kino Lorber sale haul. I think my sale haul will probably come by then. And I think we're just going to do like a video a week. Would very much appreciate a subscribe, appreciate a like, and maybe a comment what you think about these movies. And if you like this, or if you don't like it, you can be mean in the comments. You don't have to be, but you can, I guess you could just ignore. But if you do like this, let me know. I would really much appreciate that, because this is a new endeavor that I'm not sure how this is going to go, but it's kind of an experiment. So we'll see. Anyway, my name is Daniel. This is the Cobwebs YouTube channel, and thanks a lot for watching.